Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Ghida, and I started my online platform a year ago so as to connect all the Arab diaspora and all the success stories I'm trying to highlight upon their work throughout my online channel, and I'm trying to connect them with all the Arab communities in Canada and in the US as well with the Arab world. Today, I'm having with me from the States, from Los Angeles in particular, a very dear friend and someone I've been working with him for a long time, but back and forth, he's been going back and forth to Lebanon from the US to be with us in many festivals, many film festivals in Lebanon. And today I'm going to talk with him about his work, about his career as a filmmaker, and as well about his work as an executive director of the Asian World Film Festival. I have with me today the dear friend, George Chamchoum. George, hello and welcome.
Yes, hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's always good to have you. It's always good to be with you and to discuss with you many cinematic events, many cinematic stories that that we've loved to work upon, especially that we both have the same passion for cinema and we both have the same passion for this beautiful industry, which is cinema, and unfortunately is suffering a lot these days. But
Yeah.
this is something that we'll discuss later on. At the beginning, I would like to introduce everybody to George Chamchoum, the filmmaker who's been living for the past 32 years in Los Angeles.
Um, yeah, well, actually, I always say I'm a citizen of the world because since the age of 8, I started flying around. I mean, I was born in West Africa, Niger. That's where my father used to work. My mother is second generation, so which means that I was third generation already in West Africa. And at the age of 4, they took us, me and my sister, to Tripoli, Lebanon, uh, which is a wonderful city. And I'm so sad to hear what's going on today. It's a city that marked my life, that really is anchored in me, and actually, we have mutual friends from there, Elie
Exactly,
Shaheen.
who are from Tripoli as well,
Yeah,
of course, and it's very sad, as you said, what's happening because really Tripoli is a city of culture and it's a beautiful city and hospitality, and what's happening there is something that's really very saddening because people are on the ground calling for their minimum things that they need to have to survive, and unfortunately there are some terrorists who are coming between them so as to face all these problems and all of this chaos that's been happening.
yeah, it is. It is very sad. I mean, it's very sad, of course. I mean, I'm not going to go into politics, but
No.
Tripoli was an example. I mean, really. I mean, when we used to sit at the same table, Shlomo and Muhammad, Ali, George, Michel. I mean, it was the city of love. It was the city of creation. I mean, Tripoli has bred so many filmmakers and poets. Um, and when I sit with my friends, of course, because when I go to Lebanon, mostly is to see my friends.
Exactly.
And of course, Emil Shaheen is one of them. Edgar Nejad.
Yeah, our dearest friend, and I always say my best title for me, my dearest title is Little Emil. When he calls me Emil, the small Emil or the little Emil, this is a big honor for me, really. When I call him the godfather of Lebanese cinema.
Yes, he is. He is. So yeah. Anyway, this is what's happening, and it's killing me. Honestly,
Yeah.
it is killing me. Because I don't know what to do. But in any case, so yes, we went to Tripoli. My village is Hmais, Mizyara, Qada Azgharta.
Yeah.
And but in the winter everybody was in Tripoli, and in the summer everybody would go to Hmais, Mizyara. And so I went to the school there, and then at the age of 9, my parents thought that it would be better for me to go to Europe, and they dumped me literally, not in a bad sense, in a good sense. They dumped me literally in France, in a school
Mm.
called École des Roches in Normandy. I had no
Well,
family.
it's a good dump. Anyway, it's a good dump if it's
That's
in
what I
France.
said.
It's
It's
okay.
not in a negative
It's
connotation.
not a
Yes.
bad thing.
I mean, my whole education was there. I mean, it was made there because I stayed in that school until baccalaureate. And I was the first Lebanese. After that, Marwan Sahnawi followed me, and the third Lebanese was Tabit. I forgot his name, but it doesn't matter. So it was a great experience. So from that school, I went to Germany to do my baccalaureate. From Germany, I went to Poland. From Poland, I went to London. From London, I went back to Russia because
Mhm.
now I started my career as a filmmaker, film
Yeah.
student, and I did my assistant years in Poland and Moscow with Andrei Tarkovsky, and then London with Roman Polanski. So my my journey since the age of 9 has been one of fascination, and I am truly blessed. I mean, literally, I cannot find another word. I am truly blessed that I had parents who were very understanding, and they never said no. In a way, it's not good because it made me this uh, rotten, spoiled kid at one point.
But the final result came out great for us.
Yeah, well, because I learned it the hard way. Because when I
Yeah.
grew up, I was so spoiled that, when you go into the adulthood, you start discovering, the problems and the intricacies of life. And I had such an ego at one point that my head wouldn't go through the Arc de Triomphe, in Paris. I mean, it was terrible. And I'm ashamed when I think about that. But you know what? It is part of my growing up.
Yeah.
So yes, then from France, of course, I moved here. I know I went to Lebanon, of course. Lebanon, I lived from 68 to 75 when the war started. I did two movies, Inside Out, Salam Ba'd al-Maut, and then I moved on to do Lebanon Limaza in 1975 when the war broke out. It took me 8 years. It took me from 75 to 79 to do this Lebanon Y, and then I moved to France, and then in France, I wasn't happy. I was very unhappy, even though I was one of the leading film director in music videos. I just couldn't take. I felt I was suffocating in Europe.
Mm.
So I went to the U.S. I came to Los Angeles, but in the between, I stayed about 5 months in Washington, where I worked on the Hill with Congresswoman Rosemary Okar.
Mhm.
Uh, and then after 5 months, it wasn't my city. Too many lies flying around. I couldn't take it. I cannot take politicians. They give
Yeah.
me the itch. So I left the city and came to Los Angeles.
I have the same feeling as well. We share the same feeling as well regarding politicians. George, having this great career or this great journey as well, and working with Roman Polanski, getting to know all of these cultures, all of these cities, all of these countries, and working with all of these great directors as well, it has enriched a lot your work in order to be able to make great movies and great films, short films or music videos, feature films, and all of that. So in working throughout all of this career, what has led you at the end to be able to establish yourself in Los Angeles for the past 32 years?
Well, I came to Los Angeles. At the beginning, I never thought I would end up in the U.S. in Los Angeles, even though it is the mecca of movie making. But
Exactly.
I was. It's weird. The way that my life has advanced. The years that you know, the future years, how it happened to me. My biggest love in movies were movies coming from Poland, Russia, behind the Iron Curtain, okay,
Yeah.
and Japan. I was a huge fan, of course, of Japanese cinema, Kurosawa, Ozu, Mizoguchi, Kobayashi, etc. And I grew up with those filmmakers more than the West, like France, England. Of course, the U.S. has always had a place in my heart. The movies of the 50s and 40s, 50s, 60s are still the best movies in the world.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
And so, but you know, as the years advanced, you know, I started discovering that I had other hidden love that I did not know about.
Mm.
And yes, I was extremely blessed again to work with great directors. I mean, Tarkovsky is you know, he is the greatest filmmaker in the world to this day.
Yeah.
And Polanski, of course, whom I admire very much, even though he's got this other side of his life. But who am I to judge him? I
Mm.
judge him on what he does, and the guy is a genius. You have
Yes,
to accept that.
exactly.
Um, I when I decided to come to the States, of course, I it was from one day to the other. I just packed up and said, "This is it. I'm
That's it.
and I left." Uh, and when I got here, I was extremely lucky uh, uh, to have met Steven Seagal the first year I
Mhm.
arrived here.
Yeah.
And Steven immediately took me under his wing. Uh,
Oh.
that was 89.
Uh-huh.
Thanks to him, I did my first feature. He called a friend of his. Actually, they were not friends. It's very funny. He knew him, uh, but it's very funny because he calls Joseph Murray, and I have to admit that Joseph really did shape my first years in the United States. He
Mm-hmm.
had a studio called PM Entertainment. Joseph is half Syrian, half Lebanese. He's a wonderful and a real gentleman. It's one of those kind people you and very talented that you meet once in a you know from time to time. You know, every blue moon
Yeah.
you meet somebody like him. So Stephen called him, says, "I have my friend George here. I want you to take him and produce a movie of his." So I went to that studio, which and it was a studio that we did those action movies very fast, and we used to do about 2 3 movies a year. So he gave me my first director job after I stayed there for like 6 months, and it was Tiger Heart. And uh, of course, me coming from Europe, I had this artistic view of movies. Instead of thinking
Mhm.
like in America, they think of the audience, and that's
Yeah.
what makes the producers here the key person in a movie, because the producer does look at the movie as an audience. The director looks at his
Exactly. It's always the box office that matters the most.
and what appeals to the public. So I did this
Yeah.
Tiger Heart, which I was very happy to do. And when we did the first screening, I mean, Joseph and his partner, they looked at me and said, "What is this? We're not doing an art movie here." So after I gave them my first cut, they locked me out of the editing room and they re-edit the movie. I really loved it actually what they did, because it appealed to the big. It was a funny movie. It was action. It was fast moving, and I'm grateful to him. I'm the director of the movie. People now know the inside story, but they didn't know that I did the first cut, which was totally artistic. Really, I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, you know. But so Joseph really was the person then, and then Steven Seagal, of course. And since then, Steven and I, we kept our friendship, and we speak very often together, and we see each other a lot. And he's been a real, true, loyal friend. Yeah, and so that's how.
Going back to Lebanon as well. As you said, Lebanon has always been in your heart up until today, and you've done a lot of movies as you were telling us right before the war and also when the war started. Working in Lebanon also about the movies, talking about Lebanon, working on the ground with the Lebanese cast and crew. How was it? How was it then?
You know, it was it was a very interesting experience, because the first movie I did, Inside Out, Dekhal Kharij, was a love, was a labor of love and a labor of friends. I have always been, I always put friendship first.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, of course, I always look for the talent, but I always also believe that this friendship could lead to a certain talent. So this is how I did my first two movies, Inside Out and then Salam Ba'd al-Maut, Gérard Roulade, God rest his soul. I brought him to write the screenplay. And I had, a lot of very, very good actors like Abdallah Shammas, Joseph Nano, Alia Numri.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so anyway, and when I did this movie, I wanted to do it in the language, the Lebanese language, okay?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was sad to see that Lebanese movies speak in Egyptian. I mean, come on, please give me a break here. So I did it in Lebanese. I started with an actress whose name is Habiba, but unfortunately, after a week's shoot, she dropped out and disappeared. I mean, literally disappeared.
Oof.
And so I had to look for someone to replace her.
Yeah.
A friend of mine came to me and said, "You know what? Why don't you use Samira Ahmed?" I said, "Samira Ahmed, are you kidding me? She's like the Shirley MacLaine of the Arab countries, but she is Egyptian. How can I?" He said, "Don't worry, we'll coach her to speak Lebanese."
Yeah.
And guess what? I brought her and we coached her to speak Lebanese. So it was great. I mean, she's such a wonderful, I mean, she is a lady's ladies. She is an amazing and talented woman. So that's how I made this movie in Lebanese and in black and white on top of everything. And to add even worse, I did some scene where the actress was totally naked. And in Lebanon in
At
1970,
the time, yeah.
well, that's the second time because in Inside Out it also happened, and I was arrested because of that.
Uh-huh.
And plus drugs. I mean, not taking drugs because the movie dealt about not really drugs, but about people, going out of their body. And of course, they translated it into like, these people are taking drugs. That's not true. And then Salam Ba'd al-Maut, I did those naked scenes. And of course,
So you got arrested and still you did it again?
I did it again because it's in the story. I mean, I don't know, maybe I was
You were rebellious. You were rebellious at the time.
I'm going to say it in Arabic. It's like bharkish. I don't know. Maybe I like to put oil on the fire. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did it, and it didn't create as much problems as Inside Out. But I had those two scenes, and so black and white, Lebanese, naked. The distributor said, "Oh no, we will take your movie, but please go and dub it in Egyptian." I said, "What are you talking about?" And no, really, literally, go dub it. And I will always remember I was sitting in Mahmoud Aitani's office, Sarula, and he looked at me. He said, "George, what do you want me to do with your movie? It's in Lebanese." I said,
in Lebanese dialect. They wanted it to be in the Egyptian dialect.
Yeah, he told me go dub it and in Egyptian, and I'll take it. And I never accepted. And the movie, the first time ever it was shown in Lebanon was when they did a screening at the UNESCO. It's been so long. Like in 1982, 83. So for 13 years, nobody saw this movie.
Oof.
Yeah, it only went
and
to
how was the feedback at the time in 1982?
Well, actually, you know what? It was a weak movie, and I'll tell you why it was weak. The screenplay was weak, and it's my fault. Instead of focusing and reworking the screenplay, I was so excited. I'm going to shoot the first big movie. I want to do it because what I did in this movie also is I took all my actors and we went to Mizyara. We lived there for 3 weeks. We shot the whole movie up in the mountains.
Yeah.
This it never happened. I mean, imagine Shushu, Alia Nouri, Joseph Nano, Samir Ahmed walking in the village.
In a great setting.
Oh, it was a fantastic setting, and I filmed that بالقلعة تبع إيعال. I mean, the location was incredible. Location was amazing. The people loved it. Seeing all those actors that they always seen on TV or in the movies. Living with them for 3 weeks. I mean, imagine all those guys living with them in 3 weeks.
Of course,
so they would, because it's a movie that took place during the Turkish Empire, the Turkish, when they were in Lebanon. So they were dressed in historical garments. And I mean, I'm telling you, it would have been, if we had video in those days, somebody would have made a great movie about the movie
about the behind the scenes, how they stayed there for 3 weeks in Mizyara, definitely. And then working also with the Lebanon Y for 4 years, as you said, from 75 till 79 as well. How was it working also on this movie?
Well, actually, this is a great experience also, personal and professional. Yes, I started in 75, ended in 79. I wanted to do a documentary where I wouldn't take any side. Okay, I didn't want to be with left. I didn't want to be with the right. I didn't want to be with the Palestinian. I didn't want to be with the Kataib. I didn't want to be with I just wanted to be
impartial completely.
Well, yes, but always, of course, you have people who will criticize you and say this is impossible. You cannot be impartial. You always say, I'm sorry. I tried to do my best. Okay, so I wanted to be like, the surgeon who opens up this person who has a cancer, and he wants to look at this cancer and how can I extricate this cancer out. This is how the first thing came to my mind. This is what I want to do. So what I did also was very interesting is I had a seven people team. There were 7 people.
Yeah.
Literally, they were from the extreme right to the extreme left. So each one has an opinion. But it was great. We worked beautifully together. For 4 years, we went, from الغربية للشرقية. I mean, we would, switch.
Back and forth, yeah.
Sometime, believe me, under the bombs. I mean, I have pictures. I filmed that, to corroborate that, and I was the only one, literally, of any filmmaker who did that. I went everywhere with my team. All 7 of us. I mean, imagine the extreme left being in Kaslik or in Juni. Can you imagine that? A communist, well-known communist. I mean, believe me, some nights they were scared. She was scared. She's a woman. She's a girl.
Yeah.
And she would say, "Oh my God, what's going to happen to you?" I said, "Don't worry. It's all a legend. Nobody will touch you. It's just they like to put fear into you. And it is well known until to this day, people like to put fear in people. Who is going to catch you, kidnap you, and go kill you? They won't. It doesn't happen like this, even though things did happen during the war. But I was very confident that nobody will touch my team. And of course, when the movie finished, I was condemned by everybody. The left condemned me. They said I'm a right wing. I'm a Nazi. I'm this. I'm that. I'm sold.
Nobody is never satisfied.
Yeah, nobody accepted it. I'm not kidding you. I mean, my family, عيلتي, my family. They said I'm sold to the left. I left. I am doing a movie here. I'm showing what it was.
I'm completely impartial.
What was going on? Yeah, and so of course the movie went to 18 festivals, and every festival it created a lot of turmoil. Montreal, where you are, after I think it was like about 12 minutes into the movie, they closed the cinema because the Lebanese were starting to fight between each other. 17 police cars came and cordoned the theater. I was on the front page of the newspaper saying this movie has created tension, etc. I mean, it was just like every time you see, for example, Jumblat, of course, the left would say, hey, and you see Chamchoum, the right, and then it was just what an experience. I was standing in the back with Gérard Boulad, and I remember he said, George, we better get out or else we're dead. They're going to kill us here. So then after they closed the cinema and they stopped the screening. The screening was stopped. And I had the same thing in Tehran when I showed the movie. But the most interesting experience was when it was at the Carthage Film Festival in Tunisia. And at the press conference, people started, of course, condemning me. The left said, you're right, you're sold to the right. The right said you're sold to the left, you're a traitor to your country, you're this, you're that, you're a traitor to the Palestinian. So I don't remember who it was, but it was one of the leaders of the Palestinian movement, the PLO. He stood up. He stood up. I'll never forget this moment. I can still see it now. And he said, "You are a bunch of morons. You are a bunch of idiots. You only see what is in front of you. Why can't you see once in your life something bigger than this?" This guy here, George Chamchoum, was showing you what's happening. He did not want to say, the Palestinians are heroes, or the lefts are bad people, or the right are good people. He is showing you what it is. Can you just tell me 1 minute of the movie where he does, elevate the left, the right, the Palestinian, the Israeli? No, he just filmed it. He said that, and there was like long silence, a long silence. And then one of the journalists said, "Yes, that is true, but he should have taken a stand." And I looked at him and I said, "Not in your life."
So your movies have participated in a lot of festivals, and you as well, you have taken part as a member of the jury in many festivals as well. And we in Lebanon, we were lucky enough also to have you at the NDU Film Festival as a member of the jury as well with us for many years, when you kept going, as we said, back and forth to the States to be with us also, and with our dear friend Emile Shaheen and the rest of the bunch, Sam Lahoud, Nicolas Khabbaz, and everybody else. So also being also always in the festivals, and now you are the executive director of the Asian World Film Festival, which you have honored me as well to be a member of the jury too. So if we could just also tell the people about this Asian World Film Festival, and about your short movie which is Trapped, that talks about the latest pandemic, which is taking all of our mind now. We're all thinking about it, which is the coronavirus.
Okay. My love story with festivals started in 1982 when I was on the team of le Festival du Film Fantastique et de Science-Fiction in Paris. Okay, It was one of the leading festival of horror movie and science fiction. Alain Shlokov, who's the founder, gave me this chance to be with him, and I stayed with him for about 6 years until I left. It was fascinating because I had the chance to meet great directors and great actors, like Vincent Price, with whom I became extremely close. It was a great experience, and I loved it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to organize a festival. And I tried very hard. I tried to organize an Arab film festival. In those days it didn't work because Arabs, unfortunately, that everyone has an opinion. It doesn't exist. The word unity does not exist in our dictionary. Okay, unity does not exist. Like now today in the US, unity is not part of the dictionary. Unity does not. All they're focused on now is vengeance. In those days in Lebanon, everybody was thinking about himself. What do I get out of it? No. When you do something, you don't think, what am I going to get out of it? Is, what am I going to give, by doing this?
Yes.
So I tried many times with Muhammad Rida. We fought, we did so much to make it happen, and it did not work, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I moved on anyway. So I came to the United States, and then I went into the movies, etc. I made my movies, just a normal filmmaker's life, And I used to go to festivals like NDU, of course. I loved being there every year, and I love that festival because it's a festival of friendship. It's a festival of family. It's people who love each other, and not only love each other, they love the movies. And this festival was a short film festival, which means these kids are the future of the movie making.
Exactly. And eventually many directors who were in this festival, they became big directors of major movies all around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, one day I saw a movie called Kurmanjan Datka, Queen of the Mountain from Kyrgyzstan. I fell in love with that movie. And I was part of the Yakutia Film Festival. Just to explain where Yakutia is. Yakutia is the furthest northern country in the world. It's way up north. Okay.
Mhm.
For example, today it's about 72 degrees today. I mean, imagine the cold, minus 72 degrees now as we speak. I was invited there to this festival, and I loved Yakutia. And for me, Yakutia is in my heart forever. I mean, it's under my skin. I love that country. I love the people. They are wonderful people. So they had this Yakutsk Film Festival, which I was a member of the jury. And then after that, I was honored to be the international director of that festival. So I saw Kurmandan, that Kyrgyz movie. I fell in love with it, and I wanted that movie for Yakutsk. So I called the director out of the blue. I called him from Facebook, and from that day on, we became inseparable friends. I mean, and in those days, he was the Minister of Culture of Kyrgyzstan, the director. So he came to LA because his movie represented Kyrgyzstan at the Oscars. It was in 2014.
Okay.
So he came to me, he said, George, we should, he was disappointed because the movie, we were all hoping that it will get nominated, at least nominated, but it didn't get. And this movie is a masterpiece. I mean, literally. And so he said, George, let's do something for the Asians in Hollywood. I said, what do you want? Just tell me. I'm ready to do it. So he started first talking about distribution. And I said, distribution is a mafia in itself. I don't think we can get into that. And then he looked at me, he said, well, you do festivals. How about we do a festival?
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped into it. And that's how we created in 2015 the Asian World Film Festival. And we had one mission, one goal in our mind, is that this festival will cater to the Asian and Asian American cinema. Put them in the spotlight in Hollywood to show all this amazing talented people coming from 52 plus Asian countries. Lebanon is part of them, of course, because as you know, Asia starts from Cyprus all the way to Japan, from Russia coming down, Georgia, Turkey, all the way to China and India. So that's 50 plus countries. Imagine the talents out of it. So we decided, okay, we will do that, but let's do something even better, I told him, because this does not exist. How about we only focus on Oscars and Golden Globe movies, and then we can show some movies also outside the Oscar, but let's focus mostly, let's do our program 75% Oscars and Golden Globe.
And the movies that are submitted by their own countries to go to the Oscars and the Golden Globes.
And the Golden Globe. And that's how we did it, and that's how we started. And immediately from year one, the Hollywood Foreign Press, which is the Golden Globe, became our partners, which was a big thing for us. I mean, the festival, I mean, imagine. So after the third year, not only they were our partners, they gave us a scholarship for short film. We didn't show short, but because of them, we have just a small program of short films, and they give a scholarship to the filmmaker who wins. So now we've been in existence for 6 years. We always do it early November because of the Oscar films and the Golden Globe. And guess what? I mean, after 3 years, we started having over 1 billion impression. You know what's a billion? So the whole world knows about us. The least place where they know about us is really Los Angeles, but now they started. I mean, last year and this year has been amazing. The PR started giving us their movies. They call us, please put this movie, put that. So now they know that we have done something good. And on top of everything, we were part of Parasite last year. We were part of the promo team, and look what Parasite did. It was a miracle.
Yeah, it did amazing. It was great last year.
Yeah, and this movie did boost us, and this is what our festival is. So Sadiq Sharniaz, who was the former minister of culture in Kyrgyzstan, uh, uh, came and then said, George, let's do it. So now, we have this amazing festival. And I must say something also. I am still a volunteer. I do not get paid. And guess what? I have about 30 team member. Not one of them gets $1. They all do it for passion. They give literally, they give, I would say some of them give about 18 hours a day these days, because our festival, it didn't happen in November. We pushed it to March, hoping that theaters will open, but theaters are not going to open. So we decided in June to start showing movies, screening movies, as you know, because you're in the jury this year. So we're going to have between 12 to 14 movies in the competition, but in total we will have about 30 movies.
Yeah, exactly. And Lebanon had the chance to be able to participate with the C-section, which was the submission. At the end, now you're finally making a short list. So now the movies are the number of the movies is even much less, because now it's the final selection, right?
Yeah, but you opened a can of worm here. Lebanon has been one of the few countries, one of, I would say, two countries, Israel and Lebanon, the most difficult countries to get a movie. Imagine, I'm Lebanese, and I tell all the filmmakers in Lebanon, guys, I'm the executive director. Abuse me, use me, and abuse me. I'm here for you guys to promote their movie. Guess what? This year I didn't get the film by Jimmy Kairouz. Why? Don't ask me. Ask him.
Broken Keys, the one that was submitted for the Oscars.
I didn't get it. I did not get it. Every year I have problem with the Lebanese filmmaker. I think it has to do with this. Okay, I don't know why, but
although it's his first feature film, and he was so excited that it got submitted.
Excited or not, sorry, I don't know if it's his fault or the distributor's fault, but I'm just saying in general, Lebanese have been the least helpful. I mean, if I didn't have Emil Shaheen, Sam Lahoud, who else? I mean, and people like you who tell me, George, there's this movie, let's show it. Nobody will come forward. Not one Lebanese filmmaker comes forward. The only one that really is always supportive is Nadine Labaki. Okay.
Yeah.
But Nadine Labaki, we know she's a lady. She's a true filmmaker and a creator.
Yeah, she's a genius.
We are the I mean, it's an honor to have such a lady in the Lebanese cinema. I regret we lost Randa Shahal. Also such a wonderful lady. I mean, Randa was my friend since we were, in the early 60s. I saw her grow up. I saw her when she was still a student, and this woman, I love her to death. I mean, she's in my heart until today, and she will never leave.
Very unfortunate that we lost her at a young age.
Yeah, so it's very rare to find filmmakers and I tell them literally, I use the word. I said, use me and abuse me. I'm there. You have a chance to show your movie in a festival, to show your movie to such a large audience. Why are you doing this to me? So I gave up. This year I gave up. I don't.
Well, hopefully the call to action now will be to all Lebanese filmmakers that to be able to participate in the upcoming Asian World Film Festivals in the upcoming years, and all the luck for the festival this year, which will take place in March also, and for your short film, which is Trapped, which, as we said, talks about the coronavirus that started in Wuhan, and it was filmed there also after the COVID-19 virus started.
Well, Trapped is it's a friend of mine, Chao Dongche. He's a filmmaker from Beijing. He came to me. He was here in LA, and he said, George, I have an idea. I would like to shoot. There's this true story that happened after this pandemic started. So he went back to Beijing, and we literally filmed the movie guerrilla style, no permit, nothing. We just filmed it, and it's a 22-minute movie, short. And it is in the Oscar for the short films this year. So
Hopefully, best of luck for the movie. It's a beautiful movie, and it talks about what we are all suffering from these days. Hopefully, this pandemic will come to an end very soon, or at least we will know how to deal with it with the vaccination that we are all looking forward to. Thank you so much, George. It was lovely having you today and discussing all of this passion together, and hopefully the movie industry will take back its life again after also this pandemic ends, and we can open all of our movie theaters and get together sitting right next to one another in a movie theater watching a movie.
Yes,
Thank you so much. It was lovely having you, and thank you, and have a great best of luck also for the movie, as I said. Thank you.
Well, just please follow us on Facebook, Asian World Film Festival. We have many screenings, many panels, great panels with stars. So please follow us. Thank you.
Of course, definitely, and they will see the website of the festival also on the screen while during our interview also as well. Thank you so much. To be able to watch the interview with the filmmaker and the executive director of the Asian World Film Festival, George Chamchoum, all you have to do is to subscribe to my YouTube channel, ghidamajzoub, and I will see you in the next interview. Ciao.
Thank you, Ghida. Thank you.